Earlier, there were challenges that we should move to cloud or not. We have so many confidential data, but now everyone understands that they need to scale up. Especially think about startups. Startups need to have an environment wherein they can just scale up to an extent, or this they can just go ahead and get the clusters, get the load. Now, when we talk about zero trust, how it's actually playing a role in cloud security. Earlier, we had identities wherein we were managing it internally. Everything inside the organization is good. All the users inside the organizations are good enough, but the people outside are not. If we talk about the threat vectors, 80% of the breaches happen because of the loss of credentials. Now that's a huge number. So if an internal employee credentials are lost or stolen, what can happen? There can be a big problem. So zero trust helps in redefining the identities, wherein earlier the identities, okay, we have a username password, we are good enough. Then came role-based access control, privilege, principles of least privilege. And now we have started talking about context-aware access. Zero trust portrays role there. About cloud, we can encrypt data at rest, in transit, anywhere, which is exactly the core we want. We want to make sure our data is safe. In cloud, it's easy to do the monitoring and logging if we enable it at the right point. So zero trust covers the holistic pictures of identity management, categorizing the data, monitoring, logging, encryption, governance. Because now when we have so much going on in cloud, Kubernetes, containers, we are also talking about how about compliance as a code. So that's easily accessible over the cloud. And that's what zero trust emphasizes on. Vinayak, you're speaking on mute.
Ashish, you have been one of the largest player in cybersecurity, right? Which serves not only here in India, but across the globe as well. So just let us know how it is evolving in last couple of years, and especially after this COVID pandemic, how things are moving to cloud and why the discussion about the security is now increasing the discussion about the cloud security.
So Vinayak, when I say movement to a cloud, right, it comes with the ease, flexibility, scalability, elasticity, which cloud provide. But at the same time, as Vandana was mentioning, we need to maintain a right posture and the transparency on a security. So it's a joint responsibility when you go to a cloud, and we need to make sure that we have a identify asset, identify the exposure, and how we can control that exposure very well. Because, you know, if I look at the old days, mainframe days, you have a standard architecture, you are accessing the environment from a specified location or a specified network. Now that boundaries are going to go away with the cloud. You can access from anywhere. You can get the access to from any devices, and you need your business to be resilient for any of the situation what we are in. So I personally feel is cloud has brought lot of good point, but at the same time, in that race of getting the business aligned, we cannot just leave security behind. Security should be part or integral part of the cloud journey, rather than the afterward effect where we see some of the controls were weak or missed, and then we get into compromise and rebuild over on infrastructure. And that's what I strongly feel that should be the way to go.
So Professor Sandeep, I have been familiar with the research work which is happening in IIT Kanpur, especially the lab that you have been guiding, the C3i lab. So how do you see the key research which is evolving in the academic world, how that would be contributing to this new architectural paradigm that we all are looking for?
Thank you, Vinayak. Let me first acknowledge that I am sitting in for Professor Pramod Subramanian. who actually unfortunately passed away last week. So with a heavy heart, I'm joining this this program and kind of substituting for him. Having said that, we have to move on with our work. So in terms of zero trust, the best source I found about zero trust architecture is the NIST special publication 800-207. And they talk about 7 tenets of this zero trust architecture. And so the idea there is that you have to make sure that all the resources, enterprise resources, are protected for authentication and authorization at a micro segment basis. So right now what happens is when the user comes in either through VPN or being inside the network, they are allowed almost all resources. The idea is that not only will be doing micro segmentation to actually put policy enforcement points before important resources where the person or user, or it may not be a human user, it could be a software trying to access a particular resource, that has to be properly authenticated and some policy decision has to be made. And this policy decision has to be made dynamically. And what is this going to depend on? Not only on the user's history and user's past behavior, but also on the need for the user to know what to access that resource, as well as the identity of the computing equipment that the user is or the software is on, and that equipment's state of that equipment's security. And for making all this to happen, you have to have very good understanding of the host or equipment intrusion. You have to understand the network intrusion, and you have to understand overall security posture of the devices that are trying to communicate to that resource. And you have to also understand the threats that are possible, and also the enterprise security policies and any other policy that is associated with the government or other type of security regulation like HIPAA or FISMA, etc. So therefore, what in the academic world, what we have been doing is more to do with using machine learning analytics to characterize security states of devices, security state of the network. Also behavioral analytics for the user, right? How the user has been behaving in the past. And that could actually be a factor into the policy decision that is being made to let the user go beyond the policy enforcement point to get to the resources. The other things that are required is, of course, all the data should be at rest as well as in communication encrypted. So there are lightweight encryption sometimes needed because strong encryptions methods might actually be very time consuming, and sometimes, especially in the sector I work in, that is the power sector or any kind of operational technology sector, there the time is of essence. Some of the responses has to be made within 7 milliseconds, etc. So there are other areas of cryptography, lightweight cryptography. This kind of research is going on. Also, in order to know the security posture, you have to do also machine learning based analysis of the behavior and the various indicators from various devices. So a lot of these activities are associated with machine learning, and a lot of the some of the activities are associated with network security and also device security, policy enforcement, and compliance. this kind of stuff. So threat intelligence collection and making actionable threat intelligence. So these are the kind of things that we have been working on, and others around the world are working on to enable zero trust security.
Yeah. So I think as we are with you, sir, I will like to dwell in one or two areas that you just mentioned about. So one is the industrial security and the security of industrial security. But now, if you just look at even from oil energy companies to the water management or to electricity power grid, and we are in the age of the smart cities where many of those kind of delivery of a key public services like a water sanitation would be also increasingly getting digitized, right? And in that area, which is now newly emerging areas, apart from the power sector and power grid, which have been automating the way the grids works basically in the country. So what kind of key challenges that you see? Because automation and digitization means so many new entities will try to come to the network, right? So and they will try to come with the devices as well. I know these are the areas which are very well governed. Still, there are a lot of innovation which have been devised and which have been planned in those kind of industry which are oil energy, power sector, water management, the sanitization. So if you have to really reveal what kind of research areas which are evolving to take care of the industrial control system security from the context of a digitization plan, for context of all the technology tasks we are seeing.
Right. So, well, one of the biggest challenge is not research, but the biggest challenge is manpower. Yeah. We have a huge lack of manpower in the country as well as around the world in cybersecurity who actually know the cybersecurity. So that is very important. And for that, we have to create centers of excellence for research, teaching, training. And I think industry and academic partnership is very important there because, you know, academics are often more interested in like 10 years down the line research, whereas what we need today is now, right? What we need is right now. We are getting through huge amount of digitalization. Even today, Google has announced a 75,000 this thing for advanced digitization and technology. So I feel that, you know, the second problem that I see is the indigenization of technology. So most of the things that I have mentioned, like, you know, intrusion detection, the behavioral analytics, the security incident and incident management and event management, all these tools mostly are from IBM and you know, various companies based in Israel and other countries. And that actually is very scary because, you know, we don't have really very good solutions for this in India. So therefore, we need a lot of research, and the research has to be translatable immediately to actually make startups and other kind of companies that would actually take over, you know, the research and then make sure that they are translated into products, and the product should be robust, right? So the product should not be fragile. Then very soon people will go back to the existing solutions from other countries. So in terms of the research that we see is that, you know, the machine learning people work in a, so bringing in machine learning people together with the security people is a challenge, and that we try to solve to some extent here in our center, but that has been a challenge. On top of that, people are jumping into all kinds of new technologies, like for example, blockchain. They are putting IoTs everywhere, and then there is a question of, you know, identity of devices, identity of users, you know, proper identification, not like, you know, somebody makes a regular private key and public key and say that this is me. The regular identification, the strong identification, those kind of challenges has to be resolved. Also, you know, malware, for example, right now, actually, I just came from a meeting that is still going on by the Central Electricity Authority. They are very worried about this power grid security, especially in the context of this confrontation with China, that many of our power grid devices are probably having backdoors, trojans, malware, and how to create a test environment and test facilities. And this kind of expertise also are very, less in the country. And we need to develop that expertise. We have to develop the workforce, and we have to develop test beds and test benches where this technology can be tried. So I think there is a huge amount of things to do, and better the government and industry understand that this is required, faster it will be. And I think more incentive has to be created for cybersecurity related products, and government has to somehow come up with some incentivization mechanism. So I think there's a lot to do.
Yeah. So I think you very well highlighted all the challenges, especially with the industrial environment, and now this Trojan, especially now Trojans are coming at hardware level as well, and that is changing the entire equations, and that are hitting many of these critical sector organizations. So Ashish, because you have been serving global clients as well, right? And most of the we know the financial sector, IT sector has been very aggressively charting the journey of digitization, but now there are a lot of unconventional in the conventional industry, but they probably are very unconventional in terms of the technology adoption. Oil energy sector or many of such kind of new sectors, power grid and those kind of critical sectors basically. So what is your experience in terms of how the digitization is happening, and are they going for a cloud transition to that fast that we see in the case of the digital industry or in case of a non-regulated industry? So this is up for Ashish.
Yeah, Vinayak, what I see is, if you would have asked me, conventional industry like oil and gas, 3-4 years, they were not really going for cloud adoption that fast. But now we are seeing, one is the business pressure, what they are getting into. And I personally feel, to meet the scale and the digitization demand, I don't think so there is an alternative to the cloud, but they are very cautiously making. Whenever I make a business and they give the requirement, and when I move to a CISO organization, they have their own risks. So we need to take a joint path and say that which is the best way we can move to cloud, what we can move to the cloud, and how I can ensure that I get the same visibility as well as the security. So normally I take that as a NIA, which is like, when you move to cloud, you need to make sure how you can explore a native cloud control, security control to your use. Second is, you might have your roadmap of a security and how it can be adapted, some of the solution in the cloud. And if both the things are not happening and still business need to maintain that control, visibility, compliance, we need to go as a I is a integrate, where I get the same detection and the protection control integrated under the same view, and I can get a same glass of pane view with the same visibility of what you can get when the things were at in-house.
So one question that somebody had asked about how do you means there are a lot of issues with respect to managing your own internal security, right? And now you are moving everything on a cloud, and very aggressive movement to the cloud, right? So in terms of way those services that you have been offering to your client, and 3-4 years back, and now the services which have been provided because the diligence are increasingly going on the cloud. So what kind of changes basically that you are seeing in terms of offering that you have been evolving in this area, and what kind of capabilities that you are looking at when you are offering these kind of services to the global client?
So, now most of the environment, definitely we have a customers who are going as a cloud first initiative. They are aligned to certain cloud providers, whether it's a AWS or a Google or a IBM, they go through it, we support them. And the second part is we also look at the risk and try to see what we can go on a hybrid model. By and large, the organization or enterprises which we work with, they go on a hybrid model where some of the things will move to cloud, but some of the sensitive information or what is a crucial to that still remain in-house, and how they can get the hybrid model. That's what I see across the board.
Yeah. So we definitely are getting questions on Hackathon. Damnish, I will come to those questions after I talk to Vandana. So Vandana, you talked about this concept, right? The multi-services, the Kubernetes, then you talked about the zero trust network on overall. Then there are a lot of those concepts that you talked about. So can you peel some of those concepts for a better understanding of our people? So how exactly the cloud security model which is evolving, and what are different components of those models?
Sure.
One by one.
So absolutely. So when we talk about zero trust for cloud, as I mentioned, and even we all were talking, that it's best fit for the cloud, because when we talk about public cloud, we always think that we cannot trust the cloud provider. And we always talk about shared responsibility model. We cannot take a chance in that. So that's
shared
the
responsibility
first
means
thing
the responsibility that is shared between cloud providers and the organizations which are moving to the
Yes.
cloud, right? Yeah.
Absolutely. If people think that we are moving to cloud and we are secure, or we are not secure at all. But there are a few things like underlying hardware will be taken care by the cloud provider. But when it comes to the data security, we all, as organizations, we have to take care of. When it comes to configurations, we have to take care of, because if we are not managing the right configuration, we will not be able to secure our organization. We've seen the breaches wherein the database is lying open, the buckets are open publicly, and we've not configured them properly. We've not encrypted the right set of data. And the fun fact is that people are encrypting the non-important data, not categorizing those data. So zero trust model emphasizes on all of those things. And especially, it also talks about how we can scale and handle the complexity of the environment that we are dealing with these days. So automation is must. Automation rules and access policies we can automate. Apart from that, sometimes it's not really possible to adapt new technologies because we have so many legacy apps. So how should we handle that complexity? We can actually consider that this is our environment. We know, okay, these are the things which we cannot move. And we all have to accept, okay, this is the risk. But can we do something like unifying the platform, wherein we can see there is a single console which can give us the holistic view if some attack is happening on those environments. We get to know about them. And that's when the orchestration and automation plays a very big role. So especially on the identity side, I really preach about it, that when we talk about zero trust, it says that enabling the right user, which covers the right set of users, be it internal users, external users, contractors, to have the right access to the network. So it covers device as well, because it will be going to enabling the right users to have the right access to the right data for the right reason, like why they need access to it, and from the right location. Because I have seen that when there is a developer that has access to the production environment and there is no need of it. Similarly, a person who's a security analyst who's just monitoring the firewall, the person has access to the network firewall rule changes. Why do we need it? So cloud has a segregation of everything, and we need to follow the exact rules to make sure that if a person don't need access to the firewall rules, we are not allowing them to make any of those changes. And we're trying to remove the trust from the network and moving to the users and devices by using identity management, by using device management.
Okay. So I think one of the part which I want to ask, and most of the participants here are students as well. Your role is a security architect, right? In IBM. So architect means what? So what you do in your role basically? So what kind of architecting that you do? What kind of work that you perform in IBM?
So I am part of GSI Labs, or Global System Integrators Lab, which is part of India Software Labs, where we develop softwares. Like any software that IBM has, we develop as part of it. So we work very closely. My role is to work very closely with the engineering team, understand what are the new products that we can bring, what are the new integrations we can bring, and develop those in-house. Let's say if I have to tell you that there is an IBM product, IBM security product, which is there, and I have to show you. So I am not going to show you with presentation or something. I will develop it. I will architect it, how best it can suit a particular environment, because every organization has a different environment. So I architect it. So my role is to work on identity and access management. Trust, like there are other products that on fraud prevention and mobile device management. So that's when all the zero trust came into picture, because it has to stitch all the threads together.
Yeah. So I think now we'll take some little bit because we have so many questions which are coming on a hackathon. So I'll request Damnish first of all to a little bit deliberate on what we are trying to do with this hackathon, and then on the other side of this his explanation, we will try to take as much as questions. So for all of the speakers here, we'll try to brief in terms of our answering so that we cover maximum ground. We are almost to 20 plus questions in this chat box. So I'm reading it now. So we'll try to cover as much as we can. So Damnish, over to you.
Thank you, Vinayak. Everyone, if you have any questions, you can put it in Q&A, as well as at the towards the end, we will open it for Q&A where you can ask questions to panelists. You can raise your hand. We'll allocate the time at the end for it. So thank you for attending, everyone. This is, as I said earlier, this is part of the hackathon which we are doing, which is HCL Hack IITK 2020. You can go to the website hackathon.iitk.ac.in and you'll find all the information there. But just to give you a bit of a brief on the hackathon, right now hackathon is open for registration, and it has exciting prizes for you to win. It has over 22 lakhs to be won as in the overall aggregated prizes. We have our partners in this hackathon. SCL is the title sponsor. DSCI, which is Data Security Council of India, and National Center of Excellence, COE, is the partners. We have gold sponsors, which is AWS and IBM. The whole hackathon has been conceptualized by IIT Kanpur C3i Hub. C3i Hub is the India's #1 research center in cybersecurity and cyber defense. So you can check C3i on the IIT Kanpur website too. This whole hackathon has been conceptualized by C3i professors, and this is for everyone who is technology enthusiast, professional, or a student, or a startup. So if you are a student, you are studying in a technical college, or you have just an interest in a cybersecurity, you can participate in it. If you are a professional working employed in a company, and you have good programming skills and you want to challenge yourself, this hackathon is for you. Startups working in a cybersecurity domain or using cybersecurity as part of their product, which is, as I hear in the panel, it is kind of cybersecurity is part of any IT product which you are building on the cloud. So if your startup works in that area, you can very well participate in it. As I said, it has an exciting prizes to be won. Total aggregated prizes are over 22 lakhs. We have 3 prizes for the top 3 teams, and then 25 meritorious teams. And we have a separate prize for the jury awards for promising startup. Again, there is no registration fee for this, but this is a team event, so you can register and invite your team. This is the timeline which are mentioned on the website. So we are currently in the registration phase. which is open till 24th July. So you can register, you can invite your friends to be part of your team. The team should consist of 2 or 3 members. So, and then we would have a qualifying round, which is on 25th and 26th of July. Qualifying round has MCQ and a programming questions. And once you clear this particular round, you would move to challenge round 1 and challenge round 2. Challenge round 1 and challenge round 2 both have a real cybersecurity problem, which you will get. And using the machine learning libraries, you have to write a program and solve those real problems. And based on that, the winners would be decided by the eminent jury, and the result would be out on our Independence Day, which is on the 15th August this year. And jury is consisting of very eminent people. We have Dr. Saurabh Srivastava, who is a Padam Shri and co-founder and former chairman of NASSCOM. He's a co-founder for India Engine Network too. We have our chief mentor and advisor, Professor Manindra Agrawal, who is also a Padam Shri, and he's the director of C3i Hub. Members of the jury is Professor Sandeep K. Shukla, who is part of this panel also. Vinayak sir, who is also part of this panel. We have Ranju from SCL Technology, who is part of the jury team. We have Ashish. Ashish is part of this panel also and is part of the jury too. We have Priya Malia, who works with the IBM, and she's part of the jury team. We have Durga Prasad from the AWS. So these are eminent people, industry people, who are going to see your solution and make a judgment to it. These are again sponsorship partners for us. We thank all of them and coming together to help us organize this hackathon. You can find all the detailed rules here. You can read it. And in case you have any questions, you can write it to us, which is hackathoniitk@gmail.com. You can write the question and expect an answer, very quick answer from us. And in case of any query, any kind of question you have, just feel free to write it to us. Thank you, Vinayak sir. You can take it forward now.
Yeah. Thanks, Ramesh, for helping them understand some of the questions which is coming are on largely on a hackathon and how it will be organized, and thanks for revealing all the information here. So Professor Sandeep Shukla, so there's one interesting question and about the machine learning that you talked about. So the question is, if you are starting your own against the larger organization, the kind of data that you require to do the machine learning algorithm, right, and to test and train the data, right? So how would a startup get the data set? And this is a very crucial question, not only for cybersecurity, but many other areas as well. The startups really struggle to get access to data set, and that's why that constrains their ability to really do a very significant work in this area. So is there a way to solve this problem?
Yeah, so that depends on what kind of problem they're solving. For example, for malware analysis tools, there is a large number of open source data, plus there are other researchers who have collected data, and if you request them with the proper disclosure that this is for what purpose, and they would be acknowledged, etc., you can get data. So we have more than 1.5 lakh malware from various sources that we have received, from open source as well as from various researchers that we have used to build our tools. Similarly, for certain things like network intrusion detection, there are standard data sets on which you can start. Of course, the data sets that are specific to an enterprise or specific to a company are quite different from each other, and therefore you have to again tune and relearn and etc. And sometimes you have to do dynamic learning. All that stuff has to be done in the pilot projects where sort of a tool has been built on a benchmark data set, and this benchmark data set are often available. Now, certain other things for which the data is not so easily available. For example, if you want to do intrusion detection in the physical activities of plants like power system, that data set is much harder to get, especially labeling that data set is very difficult to do. in which case I would suggest that startups would have to then work with a company like PowerGrid or some company, and I guess the DSCI can play a role there to actually connect them to the right companies where if they want the tool, they would probably help with initial data set. So if there is a will, there would be a way. The
Yeah,
question
yeah.
is, the question
And
is,
now, yeah, and then now the things have been changing. Like if anybody has a startup, there are larger companies which are willing to work with the startup as well. So last week itself, we
right.
did a Connect for Security session with the startup and CISO together. And to my surprise, almost 23 CISOs of a leading company had joined us to talk to startups. This has changed quite a lot in the last 3-4 years of time actually. And there's high possibility for, and even the larger companies, including IBM and many other companies, have been coming up with the policies to work with a startup and making, creating their platform so the platform can be leveraged by the startups. I think Vandana, in this area, I think IBM do provide a lot of those intelligent feed, right, which people can leverage to either to build the security and also work on those kind of platform available by the IBM. So do you have any insight on this? How you enable the security community across the globe and especially enterprises on one hand and startup on other hand?
Sure. So Xcode has tech feeds which enable everyone to know about great things and latest happening in InfoSec. Apart from that, if you want to know about the basic architecture of different technologies when it caters to security, IBM has a security learning academy, which is free for anyone to leverage the learning from that. So people can actually go there, learn from that. There's also a blog post that that IBM employs, and there are a lot of partners which write, which is on securityintelligence.com. So people can actually look at that and take help from that.
Okay. So Ashish, on the overall discussion about the zero trust, I mean, coming back to the main topic basically. So how is the journey to achieve this shift or transition to zero trust architecture? Is it a kind of a easy journey? You just get some solution and plug in so that the security will start behaving the way we expect. So is there any insight available or insight that you can throw on how organization traverse this journey of maturing themselves towards the new paradigm of security that we talked about?
So Vinayak, how it happens is zero trust is a framework. It is not a product or a one single solution. First and foremost is organization need to define the requirement for a zero trust. That's where it starts. Then you need to make sure to implement a zero trust, what is the current environment workflow, how the environment organization, various application, various devices, various user communicate, which could be legitimate or which could be legitimate, which need to be controlled, right? Then you need to come to architecting a zero trust, and it need to define at every layer, whether it's a cloud, mobile, endpoint, application, infrastructure, user, identities. Every place you need to define who can speak to whom and why. Why should be clearly answered. And once you define that, you should come up with your zero trust policy, which will help you to take this zero trust implementation on a long run, because it might happen a business unit wise, it might happen a region wise, it might happen a user group or a application wise. And the last but not least is you need to closely monitor the progress of a zero trust, because I have seen that if this all the 5 steps are not put it into right shape, you might see zero trust might be a failure or it might be derailed because of these 5 steps are not been followed. uh, Vandana, I can take your input, but this is what I have seen, where we have seen the zero trust implementation goes well with the customer because all these 5 steps has been followed, or sometime it has been halted or derailed because of one of the steps which has not been considered thoroughly.
Right. I agree, Ashish, that it's more of a framework wherein we cannot have just one product and say that we are mature enough to go ahead with zero trust. So we have to understand multiple aspects and cover all those aspects. Then only we can actually achieve zero trust. And it's it's a journey. It's not an end goal. So we have to take smaller steps to understand where exactly we can reach. What is the maturity level of our organization, and then take a step forward. We have to know our environment well. When we talk about zero trust, first start understanding the environment and then take all those steps.
Professor Sandeep, there is a question on a startup on a cybersecurity, and you did discuss about it. And this question is how easy is to start your own. And we had been doing work as a DSA in this space. And for example, in this area itself, work from home security in zero trust, there are almost 30 plus startups in India working in this area. And we are devised a report and we are publishing that report. So this research, right, and that you have been doing in a C3i lab, and which is lending key critical capabilities to the enterprise security. So what do you see transitioning of that research to usable product by the industry or by the society? So how that transition should happen? Is it happening? Are you satisfied with what is happening now?
Okay, I will come to this question, but before that, I have just one comment in the follow-up of the previous one. There is a cultural issue about zero trust as well.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
I am on one of the regulators. I don't want to name which one. Cybersecurity committee, and we were discussing new regulations, not regulations, but new instructions for all the companies that are under that regulator. And there was a suggestion to go for zero trust for all the companies. And this committee, they felt that will have a lot of resistance. So don't call it zero trust, but put in all the requirements of zero trust and don't name it zero trust. And
yeah, I mean, this is good observation, cultural observation, because zero trust means you are suspicious about anybody who is coming on the network, and that probably creates a little bit uneasiness about connected to the network. So Ashish, you have come across any such kind of a cultural inhibition about using this term and architectural approach?
Yeah, I think so. The cultural, I agree with Professor that it is seen, but means, unless and until success of this is when people feel it is not why security, it is a my security. I am part of the zero trust journey. If that is not percolated from the top to the downward, I don't think so. The success, we have seen a lot of projects get delayed or derailed because of that, because people feel that somebody is looking at me because I am doing some suspicious activity. It should be that how I can make sure that I am secure because somebody is monitoring that. So I strongly feel is that kind of culture we need to get into the organization for the success.
So Vandana, you talked about some key terms, and automation everybody understand, but apart from automation, you talked about orchestration as a term, right? We know orchestra, right? And what is orchestration, and what is the role of orchestration in cybersecurity? Yeah, we are hearing you, Vandana.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. So orchestration is basically combining multiple tools and changing it. Especially when we talk about the incident management tools, we are trying to orchestrate them, automate all the incidents, coordinate them, and manage it like we are managing complex things. So that's called orchestration. And now this is the need of the hour, where because we cannot just sit and work on there will be an incident that will come, and then we'll keep working on it manually, then it will be resolved. But with orchestration, we are trying to be more automation oriented. We're trying to manage all those complex features with the new processes, with playbooks, where orchestration plays a big role.
Okay.
That's my understanding, but Ashish, if you want to add something to it.
Yeah, I agree. Actually, we are trying to help. When you say orchestration, people feel that what I am doing currently, it might be taken by the machine. The answer is no. Whatever mundane task we are doing, because I have seen a multiple customer where the alert fatigue is there and people will say, I will not attend, or it is on the best effort. Orchestration bring that steps which we do, it is in the regular format. If I myself and Vandana working on one particular problem, she might be a good documenter. She might put that into a 10 step and document it. And if I am the person, I would have achieved the same result, but in my documentation, it's a 4 steps. Orchestration help every action to be documented and help analyst or the individual to take a right decision in a short span of time. So I always tell people that even the autopilot need the pilot to drive the flight. So that's what we bring in. We bring in autopilot or orchestration to make sure how the mundane task, which is error prone or it cannot be done every time correctly, we bring that into orchestration and make sure how we can make a easy life of a journey from a security analyst perspective or an individual perspective who is part of that orchestration.
So let me bring one of the important questions that somebody asked here. We talk about data analytics, we talk about data, right? And data associated with the privacy as an important issue, right? You have to, data is a reason for empowerment of the modern day society, but also is a very important area of concern nowadays, right? And although there are a lot of discussion that can happen on a policy side, a law side, compliance side, but the question is largely on a technology side. And here I will like to take a view of Vandana and also Professor Shukla, because how do you do the analysis of analytics on the top of the data, which is a more encrypted data, right? So what are the encryption technologies which are evolving to help you do that one? So Vandana, are you aware about work that IBM is doing in this area? Yeah, you are on mute.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, please.
Yeah.
Right. So when we talk about analyzing the data and what are the data that is being analyzed in any of the organizations, the first thing is if we have to do the post-based intrusion detection or post-based analytics, then we have to have the agent on the systems. And when we talk about monitoring the whole environment, yes, IBM is also playing a key role in that. IBM has a product which can help in logging and monitoring, wherein we can monitor all those incidents, log what's happening with our data, what are the intrusions which are coming or hacks which are happening on any of the organizations. Similarly, IBM is also trying to help with the orchestration, wherein if those incidents come, how to automate that, how to actually recognize them at the right time with the right set of procedures.
Yeah. So Professor Shukla, I think you also tried to put some note in this particular question. So what are those new innovation happening in encryption technology which can help you? One is to manage the privacy, at the same time do the analytics basically. And there is a question specific to homomorphic encryption somebody has asked.
Yeah, so I think that the main issue, the main work that I have been seeing in the encryption community is the homomorphic encryption. And that is fully homomorphic encryption or FHE. That is basically when a data is encrypted, you want to do computation on the data without decrypting the data. And for that, there are certain properties of that function that you want to compute that has to be satisfied. And so far, those are mostly linear type of computation, which may not be all that we want to do on the data, in which case there are other solutions like enclave technology, so that the computation is done on the private data inside the enclave, which is secure and which actually establishes authentication of the requester, and also gives a proof of its own authenticity through zero knowledge proof to the requester. So there are a lot of activities that are going on in the not only in the cryptography community but crypto systems community that are there too actually about privacy there. But I want to go back to this question you asked me earlier about startups. Yeah. So the startup, we have created one startup so far here from our research, which is actually about blockchain and e-governance. We have tried to create a new startup on cybersecurity, but we have a lot of engineers involved in our project, and the engineers wanted to do that. Unfortunately, IIT Kanpur does not have a policy for. They have policy for professors and students to actually create startup, but not for engineers. So therefore, these engineers are disappointed. But I have to also say that we recently got a 196 crore grant from the Department of Science and Technology, which is taking C3i Lab into the new era of C3i Hub, which is the technology innovation hub that will be funded. And a large portion of that 196 crores is earmarked for creating startups. And then the idea is to actually create about 100 startups. I don't know whether that is going to happen because we need the manpower.
No, it is. For example, we are also setting up a National Center of Excellence for Cybersecurity. And since January this year, we have almost 20 startup incubated in cybersecurity. So means the cybersecurity as an area is picking up a quite significantly well in to do innovation, and not only innovation, but it is also become the area which attracts a lot of investment as well. So this being such a critical area, NASSCOM makes cybersecurity as a foundational technology for next 10 years. And last year itself, there are almost 10 billion plus investment happen in cybersecurity space. Basically, the valuation of cybersecurity companies are also rising quite significantly. So in our COE, just span of 2-3 months, we got able to get 20 new startups, and there are many more would be joining us in coming 1 year of time. So there is a highly possible. Our internal target is like we have potential of creating 1,000 startup in the country in the cybersecurity space. That's the potential that we're looking at from the DSA side. So there is definitely, or anybody who want to do work, there are definitely a lot of possibility in this area. But we have some audience who would like to come on a dais here in a audio form, and they want to ask us a live question. So Damnish, if you like to get them here so that we would, as a panelist here, can answer those questions.
Vinayak. Yeah, so we have couple of questions. Let me just allow. So Ashutosh Tandon, Ashutosh, you can unmute and you can ask your question, please. Ashutosh Tandon.
Hi everyone. This is Ashutosh. I work in SCL. My question is regarding the hackathon which is going to happen. It's mostly towards the programming and programming stuff. That's the first round. So the details were not very clear what is expected. In the cybersecurity, we have two sort of domains. One is the managed security service, and another one is the information security. So is the hackathon is specifically focusing on the information security, and that's the reason their focus is to develop the new tools regarding the encryptions and data protection, or they have certain inputs for the managed security services also, which is already there in the infra. Thank you.
So I can take that. So first of all, we'll have security related tool development challenges in the challenge rounds. In the qualifying round, the programming problems will be to test your skills to use programs, write programs, as well as to use tools in the sense that machine learning libraries, to actually see whether you know how to use machine learning libraries to actually develop some classification methods for some data that may or may not be related to cybersecurity. Then if you make it to the challenge round, then there in both the challenge rounds, you will get challenges that here is a problem in cybersecurity where here is the data of the past that we know about. Can you create a tool that will detect this symptom, right? Or can you create a tool that will allow us to classify that this is a bad security posture or a good security posture of the machine. These are the kind of problems that require machine learning. If you know past data, if you don't have past data, you cannot use machine learning. So you'll be provided with past data. So you have to use that to actually build models to create tools which can be used for detecting new data that is indicative of whether a bad situation is going on or a good situation is going on or things like that.
Thank you, Professor Sandeep. So, Vinayak, there's a last question from Tushar Srivastava. Tushar, you can unmute and you can ask your question, please. You are permitted to ask a question. Tushar Srivastava. Okay. Tushar?
Hello.
Yeah.
Hello.
We can hear you. You can ask your question.
Hello. Sir, please explain the... Hello.
Yeah, please, we are hearing
Yes,
you.
Tushar, we can hear you.
Sir, please explain the first round of qualifying round which is held in this hackathon.
So in the first qualifying round is a single round. There will be three problems. One is a set of multiple choice questions which are related to cybersecurity, which will test the cybersecurity knowledge of the team. Second and third problem are programming problem. The first problem has nothing to do with machine learning. It is just a standard programming problem to get you a chance to display your programming skill. And then the second problem is that of using some machine learning library, and you won't be told, well, you might be told what machine learning libraries are available. Doesn't mean that will tell you what machine learning library will be useful for that specific programs. And you will have to use the machine learning libraries. You can of course avoid library and code up machine learning algorithms yourself, which will be a lot more time consuming. So that's why we are allowing the libraries to actually do some classification job, just to test that you actually know machine learning.
Yeah, thank you, Professor Sir, Sandeep Sir. Everyone, we would have a session webinar next week, which would be just focused on the hackathon. And all your questions you can ask there, and we'll clarify all the questions related to hackathon. So I see that we are just completed our time. Thank you all the panelists, Vinayak, Vandana, Professor Sandeep, and Ashish. Thank you for allocating your time, and thanks for being the partner for this hackathon with us. On behalf of all the organizing committee, I thank you all for taking your time out today. And hopefully for attendees, this was useful. Hopefully they learned something in this particular session. And next week, we will organize a webinar which would be just focused on the hackathon, so that people can ask their questions and we clarify it related to the logistic for hackathon. So thank you again. Enjoy your day. Thank you for joining it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.